funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.
You're listening to Prog.3 of Dare to Care, the three-part series which investigates the stories of various Irish women and men missionaries who selflessly work to help people and communities in faraway lands. During the 1980s, Father Sean Connaughton, a Columban missionary, worked in Tondo, one of the biggest slums in the Filipino capital of Manila. Poverty in Tondo was so bad that the scavengers in its local dump site, nicknamed Smoky Mountain, frequently featured in TV programmes about poverty in the developing world. Sean Connaughton.
The Smoky Mountain, huge mountain with about 5,000 people living on it, all garbage and burning all the time. Now, I was parish priest there, and there was nearly nothing I could do to get work for people. Everybody's jobless. I remember we had 40,000 people who had no houses, and always in our little social action committee Monday night meetings in the parish saying, what can we do? So, little by little, I was trying to find what is a working solution.
And eventually in the year 1989, Sean found one possible solution when he was introduced to the Grameen Community Development Banking or Microfinancing Organisation, which had been created in the 1970s by the Bangladeshi economist and Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus.
I came across Professor Muhammad Yunus in the University of Sussex because I was home on holidays for 3 months, and I did a month of renewal studies there, and one of the items was Grameen Bank. So I went to Bangladesh, met Professor Yunus, did his 3-week course, watched how you interview a poor person that never went to school, how you set up the area by doing what they call a mapping survey, and then how you give out the first piece of money for them to buy 20 chickens, or maybe a cow, or plant a half an acre of rice, all these things that they do. So I spent 3 weeks, and I came back to the Philippines, and we began, and we got a Bangladeshi to come and live with us for 6 months, and trained a basic group of about 20 on how Grameen runs. Now, there's a discipline in it. I can't give you all the steps, it's too long. The basic discipline is find 5 people who trust each other and that you can trust. Now, what did they do? They are the first, what we call, group in Grameen. The group, after more or less 2 weeks evening trainings, one of them gets 5,000 pesos to go and set up an income generating project. So it may be selling a basket of fried bananas from your head every day. It may be a little shop. It may be selling underwear from a basket brought on your head. And most are women, not all, most are women. So this kind of investment for one member, if it goes well for 2 weeks, now we'll release 5,000 pesos to a second member. And if that goes well for about a week, we release 2 more members. So we have 4 members of the 5 now in business, and they must be 100% successful. In other words, pay back 1/50th of their loan every Wednesday at the weekly meeting. And finally, when those first 4 are excellent, paying back, meeting and doing the weekly study, the president of the 5 gets his or her loan. So when you have that process over, which takes quite a long time, you now have Grameen Bank operating. And little by little, you find 2 groups, 3 groups. And when there's 10 groups, now you have a centre. And by multiplying the centre, you go up a few more, maybe to 15 centres, and now you have a branch. So, at this stage now, we experienced a huge amount of applications. So many want to join. But anyhow, once we got started and our people were trained, educated, we had so many applicants. This village, that village, usually we try to make them 20 kilometres apart. And at this stage, we have more than 30,000 members in 29 branches extended along the west coast of Luzon, distance of about 500 kilometres. So, more or less, if you ask any sort of poor person up or down that coast, I bet you'll find a member of our Grameen groups somewhere.
And Sean Connaughton had the story to tell about one woman their Filipino Grameen organisation was able to help.
There's one particular woman, she was in the market. She used to buy everybody's bananas and mangoes and sell them, and then she suddenly got flooded because the place, there was only about 20,000 people there. So by God, she got an idea and she rented a truck, you see. And then she bought a truck, and now instead of bringing the bananas and mangoes and so on of her 30 members to the Faraway market, she is able to bring the fruits and vegetables and so on of about 200 members to a place called Divisorias, maybe the biggest street market in the world, where she could sometimes make nearly double what they earned in the local market by dealing with only 100 or 200 sacks, you see.
And so, also you're cutting out middlemen and everything.
Yeah, and what is more, of course, as he said, cutting out the middlemen, she is now a middlewoman herself. But in fact, she knows all these people, and she's after being the captain of that branch for 3 or 4 years. So if she makes a mistake or charges another 10 pennies for the gasoline for the truck, they're on her neck, you see. So she has that corrective influence on the particular group, and they have the influence in making sure she doesn't charge twice the gasoline when the truck only eats up 30 or 40 gallons, you see.
And Sean Connaughton also had the story to divulge concerning how their Grameen organisation helped empower one particular Filipino town.
One town, well-known town, they had a bank. Greedy as could be, never a penny of charity. And the president of the bank was also the mayor of the town. So by God, we went in with the Grameen, started with 5 or 6 people, and by the second year, that bank had closed down because of his exorbitant interest rates, cruelty if people were overdue and stuff like that. And we were able not only to reduce him, but close him down. Now, that was a terrible state because the mayor is very powerful. Those days, there was no mobile phones. I don't think there was any electricity in that place. But I used to meet the mayor's wife at some other functions connected with the school. She joined Grameen. She became a manager of a branch. And by being in Grameen, this defunct mayor actually prospered in the end, you know.
In other words, Sean, it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, in other words, that the injury caused by trying to restore a better or just situation does not damage the injured party or the one who wins. That's it. They said win-win as a good words for that.
And staying with the work of Irish missionaries in Asia, in the year 1964, Columban missionary Hugh McMahon went on missions to South Korea. He worked in various places there, including a place called Shillimdong in the 1990s.
I went to a place called Shillimdong, which was one of these, they used to call it a moon town, because it was up on top of a hill and people could see the moon at night, whereas down below there'd be pollution. And in these moon villages, there'd be shantytown areas. And the people there had already set up everything. They ran everything. I was just kind of in the middle of it. But that's where they had clinics. They had came in from the Catholic hospital. They came in once a week on Saturdays. And the dental clinic and the various clinics like that. And we had Meals and Wheels, and kind of only there was no little alleys. You couldn't have any wheels on it, but the people would come in and cook in my yard, and then bring out the food to the kind of invalids and other people in the area. And we combined, there was a Buddhist group there in the area and a Presbyterian group. We kind of worked with them too in the area, because we said, religious people, we should be kind of working together for the area.
Ecumenical spirit, it's all about the people.
And we didn't do any talking about it, we just did it. Like when we got together in our meetings, we had 1 minute's prayer and it was in silence. No one said that. But we got on with but the people were great there, and all I was doing like the Queen Bee, just sitting there, and people would come and I'd tell them, if they were interested, tell them what they could do, how they could help in the thing, and how we could help them.
And as Hugh McMahon mentioned a short while ago, a core component of their community services, whether health clinics or whatever, was that they were open to all people of all religions, or even none.
We were open to everyone. Like we didn't, our clinics, they weren't limited to Catholics or anything. The Catholics ran them, the professionals ran them, but the people who did the registration, and getting the tea ready and all that were the local people. And the professor and his students would come out once a week from the Catholic hospital, and the people would come. We had even an X-ray machine there, and we had basic kind of stuff there. We just pull it out from a cupboard, because the hall was used for all other things. But they would, the students would get their bit of practice, and the professor would overlook it, and people would get free medicine. And the same with the dentistry. We had the dentist chairs and all that there. Someone had contributed to them. Again, we just pull them out, and the dentists and the students would come. And also there was a tremendous Korean doctor down the road, down near the bus station down below, and St. Joseph's Hospital. His name was Joseph. And any of our people there that really needed help, he'd take care of them free as well. So we just write a note and saying, take care of this person, and he would look after them. So there was a fantastic system up there, social welfare, run by the community.
During the 1980s and 1990s, Hugh McMahon participated in various community protests and also pro-democracy demonstrations in South Korea.
At that time, there were a lot of anti-government. There were 3 different levels. The area I was in was a redevelopment area, and they were knocking down the houses and putting up new apartments. So there was great trouble about getting compensation and who would get into the house and all that. So there were demonstrations about that, and there were also the students were demonstrating about democracy downtown. So we were often joined together in these demonstrations. So it was great to be caught up in them. Great, it was kind of a little bit dangerous at times. As foreigners, they'd often push us into the front. I remember twice, one of them in Haewadong, down in Seoul, where we had this meeting. And afterwards we came out on the street and the police were waiting there. They captured all the bishops and put them up in the corner. But I was going to meet some of our students, our parish kids downtown, so I was heading downtown. And this crowd of young people came past on a demonstration marching downtown, and they pulled me in, come in and join us, you'll save us from the police, they say. And they kind of pushed me in the front, and then the police attacked, and they came down flaying, with their batons down in the front, and it's like a wave coming on you. And there I ended up on the front, and this guy had his baton up ready to belt me when he just kind of pulled up when he saw I was a foreigner, because he probably had his head protected, that he was in a helmet. And he kind of grunted at me and he pushed me onto the ground, Otherwise I was going to get a belt from this thing. So that happened in Gwangju too, the same thing, that people would push you on the front, and often we'd have their nose to nose with these guys with the helmets, and they'd be looking at you, and if they were standing that time, so they weren't going to attack you so much, but you could be pushed into it at times. But they were exciting times.
For nearly 3 decades, from the 1960s to the 1990s, Hugh McMahon lived and worked as a missionary in South Korea. Later he spent 17 years working in China. However, of all the places he worked in throughout his missionary life, he perhaps loves his years in Cheolmdong, South Korea, during the 1990s most.
In Cheolmdong, on the way in, when you get off the bus, you used to have to go through these gardens on your little hill, and you look down on the village below and the other village below. I remember a couple of times going there and I was saying, this is really it. This is the place I always dreamed of being without realising it, because it was obviously a poor place, but too, the sun was bright. Like in Korea, the sun can be very bright. It was kind of bright, and everything is kind of tatty, but kind of looking fresh at the same time. And I was saying, and the people, I knew all these people who were living down in the houses down there, I knew a lot of them. And I knew that I could go in there and talk to any of those people. I wasn't just a passer through, or wasn't I? And I was thinking, and I was working with the people, and I mean, with them people, they weren't working for me, I was working with them, and this is it. That actually, I had that feeling a number of times. Anytime I'd come over that little hill and look down into the little valley and the hill behind it, this is the feeling I was saying, this is really it.
And veering away from the work of Irish missionaries in Asia and turning our attention to Africa. In the mid-1960s, Sister Philomena Lynch of the Holy Rosary Missionary Sisters began working as a nurse midwife in a missionary hospital in a remote place called Ortum, situated in West Pokot, Kenya. I had this question to ask Philomena Lynch. What were the hours like? I mean, what kind of hours were you working hours?
There were no hours. When we'd start, always the people would be there around 6. That's their early rising. We would go down about 7:30 after breakfast, and sometimes with a mass. And then you're there all day. We come up for the convent.
And when you say all day now, like you mean literally all day, through to 6, 7 o'clock in the evening?
And go back down at 8 to do rounds. We literally were up and down. We come down for coffee, a break at 10 or 10:30. The nurse would always a break for everybody. And then we come up for lunch. And in the heat of the day, we'd have dinner, if you don't mind. And there was one, she'd never eat. She'd have to have a sleep because the heat of the day. And I'd often go down there about 2:30 or 3. But you'd have to keep on their feet, because if you sat down, you were gone. It was a real sleepy time. And
they call it siesta in some countries, just that kind of the day when you're the fatigue kicks in.
Yeah, very much in the heat, and the patients would all be in or asleep. But that would stay there till again until 6. Come and have evening tea, and we'd have mass sometimes. I would have prayer together, and then we'd play a canasta or something, and then down at 8 o'clock to do a round for the night. That's the time you'd be afraid of. The animals wouldn't be out yet, but anyway, we'd always very bright if there was a moon. go back down, and the little one in the children's ward, they were delighted to see us coming. Sister, they want to play. And it was lovely. We just took it for that was how life was. We didn't seem to do anything else. Come back up at what time, and then go to bed. And up in the morning.
Sister, what kind of cases were you dealing with?
A lot of malaria. Very mad malaria. And they got a lot of sickness. All kind of disease and accidents and cuts and bruises. But TB. TB was rampant there. We had a lot of TB. Even little children with TB at the back. It was constant. And then people, they come to outpatients. But then again, when a baby would die, they'd all run from the ward. That was the way, this evil spirit. They'd all cut for it, but they'd be back in again. The ward might be empty, and they'd be sitting outside under the trees and that. But they were lovely people. The women were so gracious and so nice, and a great sense of humour. They used to be laughing at us. They were laughing because I used to wear tights because I couldn't bear the sand in between my toes. And the little kids, I showed them, they thought it was my skin. They thought that was very funny. But
you thought the tights was actually your skin. Wow.
Yeah, because it was too hot to be wearing them, and I couldn't bear sand. But there was all kind, mostly malaria and dysentery and all, not fed food, they'd be hungry, like skeletons, underweight and all that. Yeah.
So in other words, it can be, we take so much for granted in our Western world, but these people were oftentimes, it was, the whole focus was just on survival.
Oh, that is all it was, just about it. But they were kind and nice and grateful. And there was very sad things when they bring in their baby or something. They might be even dead on the way or something. Yeah. And then maternity, we're very busy with maternity.
How busy?
Well, there'd be a lot of deliveries. Yeah, be a lot. Well, they're not compared to all of some places. But they would, and they mightn't be straightforward either. So that was difficult, but we were good. We were well trained in Holland Street anyway. And then the Lord was with us, that's all I'd say, yeah. We had no electricity now where it was. Oh, no electricity.
No electricity, wow. And how did you survive without electricity? Not even in the hospital medical clinic?
For an operation at night, they'd put on a generator. We'd have to call this man to put on the generator. But the flying doctors would come, and they cleared an airstrip. And they had to come down among the mountains, 11,000 feet. But they were brilliant. A surgeon, an anaesthetist, and a pilot, and a nurse. They would come and spend the day. Sometimes they spend the night and continue operation in the morning. And then off they go. But it was those funny things. When they came first, the people, they call a plane an undying, because they like a bird. You know the way the bird goes up and the undercarriage goes up. That's how the birds take off the flight. But when the first plane came, we told them, because they might be frightened, to as many as we could, if they see this thing in the air, that is now an aeroplane, undying, with people in it. So when they got out of the plane, he was a doctor, he was a German doctor, Roger, and he was pinched all over to see was he for real. They were feeling him and pinching.
You mean to say...
he wasn't really, they were pinching him.
Because he had come out of the plane. Had they ever seen a plane before?
Never before. Oh, those guys wouldn't, no. And they were all pinched all over. This Roger was the first one to see was he for real.
And I also asked Philomena what were the big challenges of her nursing work.
Children suffering from malnutrition and malaria and dysentery and everything. And
how did you cope with it?
Well, it was difficult to look at it, but at the same time we had supplies. We were very good. We'd put those babies on an intravenous drip. If the mothers want to pull it out, but the nurses stand with them and say no, that was food. They were giving the baby food because he's too weak to eat. and that was difficult. And to see all these little babies dying, and there was the mothers then, once they died, they'd all run away. So they'd want to dump it. And it was...
Because you were saying it was the evil spirit, it was the taboo of the people of the time.
They all ran from the ward if somebody died, the evil spirits. But we said no evil spirits there. And the extraordinary thing was, Paul, those people at that time, where they hadn't everything, they had great confidence and faith in this with the sisters. They had, and the priest, so they had. Yeah, and they'd be waiting at 8 o'clock at night for us to come, the little children. And there was a great bond between, they had such a trust in us. They knew they were safe when they were with the sisters. Yeah, I think that was a great help too, yeah. They'd call you in the ward, they were lovely women, they're nothing, the creatures. But they had something about to have the sisters, yeah. So that was it. I thought, consider myself having a good life. Yeah, but as we get old now, not able to do what we did.
Now, over the last 3 programmes in this series, we've heard several Irish missionaries tell their stories. However, their stories represent just a drop in the ocean of the thousands of untold stories of many Irish missionaries who, down the decades, gave their lives, their youth, sacrificed everything to help those in need who crossed their path. I'm going to leave the last word with various contributors discussing the job of a missionary.
Job of missionary for me is about walking with the people, being with the people, empowering the people.
Helped him to better their lives, helped him to be educated, helped him to see the value of themselves.
The job of a missionary is to go out and give and receive, I would say. Maybe I have received more than I gave. That one learns so many things about life and how you can live without a whole lot of stuff.
During that period, I suppose I learned that less is more.
We learned more than we actually taught in these countries.
I can honestly say that I got more than I gave, and I thank God all the days of my life that I left Ireland and missioned abroad.
Funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.